Censorship has changed the way in which we perceive media on a day-to-day basis for the worst. Now, during this time of self-isolation, I assume that a lot of us have been doing such things as watching TV, watching YouTube, listening to music, playing video games, and reading books, and consuming all kinds of different types of media in order to fill the time gaps that we now currently have. And for a lot of us on a day-to-day basis, even when we're not in situations like this, it's very important for us to consume certain types of media in order to maintain a healthy mentality, a healthy current state of mind. So, however, censorship is negatively impacting the way in which we perceive these different types of media, and that it can actually harm our mentalities, and it can create false information for those of us who watch, for example, like Trump's CDC updates, where he doesn't talk about it at all. Instead, he goes on tangents about people in Russia. uh, but in order to actually develop a good understanding of how censorship is actually disrupting our endeavors into social media and other different types of media, such as like just watching TV, it is important to look at the negative effects that it actually is bringing with it, and the why censorship, why censored content is worse than non-censored content, and what solutions there are in order to stop the practice of censorship, and how we can make it so that people will recognize that it is a bad practice to do. So, a recent thing that I have noticed, especially on YouTube, is Google has changed the community guidelines for certain YouTubers in order to make the COVID-19 situation a little bit less prevalent on the platform. And so what they have done, or what they did do basically, is that if you said the words COVID-19 or coronavirus in a video, you would be automatically demonetized. Therefore, you cannot make any funds off that video. However, they have since updated that. Yay! In which they now have it so that you can. You're supposed to be able to say those words now, but we haven't really seen any progress with that. Instead, YouTube has updated their official community guidelines on support.google.com for allowing, or disallowing rather, like imagery of people suffering fake coughs in public, falsely telling your spouse or significant other that you have coronavirus, things like that. That makes sense instead of just saying it. But I watched even a news video this morning where they kept referring to it as just simply the virus, because they could not say coronavirus or COVID-19 without fear of losing all the profits from that video. And it was a news video, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But another thing to keep in mind is that censorship just goes beyond what sensitive topics are, and actually goes through political agendas, such as mainly with China's, as we've seen in like the past 2 decades, past 20 years, especially in the video game market. And as of recently, the newly released Animal Crossing New Horizons game for the Nintendo Switch has been recently outright banned from being sold in China due to a feature which allows users to create custom banners and custom artwork for their islands. And people in Hong Kong have been using it in order to create political uprisings virtually, so that they can bring democracy to Hong Kong and be free of the Chinese government. And myself included in this, Animal Crossing is a big part of staying socially, uh, staying socially calm. I guess I don't really know. During this situation of immense amount of stress and amounts of huge workloads coming in from schoolwork and from jobs and things like that people have to do. So, uh, seeing it outright banned in China, that creates a huge problem for those people who have nothing else really to do, uh, and cannot interact socially with other people during this time. So that is creating a huge problem over there. And here, for that matter of fact, since people who are here cannot play with people in China. And so, censored content a lot of times versus non-censored content. Censored content usually only delivers half truths and or complete lies a lot of times, in which people, for example, several media outlets, including Trump himself, have stated before that the coronavirus was a major hoax and that people should not take it seriously. And I work at a convenience store, I work at Kroger, in which a lot of people come through and they're asking me, things like, uh, are you guys open yet? We're like, no, we're not. It'll be like 9:01 or something like that, and be like, no, we're not open. They'd be like, well, that's stupid. You guys should be open. I don't get to make the rules. And it's like, no, because we got to clean everything. We got to stock shelves. And they're like, for what? And it's like, coronavirus. We got to make sure that everything's desanitized. And they just look at me and they're like, well, that's stupid. You don't need to do that. There's no cause for that. I'm just like, okay. So, and basically that's basically why censored content is a lot worse than non-censored content. It doesn't deliver the entire truth to people, and therefore they gain this mentality that this thing isn't true or this thing is true, and when actuality that's not for real the case. And that was speaking from my own experience. In fact, I had that just now as I left the building. Um, and so, ways that we can make sure that people understand that censorship is actually really, really bad and it's a bad practice. There's not much in the way that we can do. We can't necessarily force people to just change their minds and be like, well, censorship, guess it's bad, won't do it anymore. It's going to require a lot of strategy and the right speaker, like the right person speaking, and it's going to require the right audience. So each speech is going to have to be made pretty much independently for each individual person who you're trying to change their minds. It's not all going to, one speech isn't going to appeal to everybody, just like this one won't. Some people will look at this and they'll be like, well, that's cool and all. Just, it didn't work for me. So, with that in mind, really using speech is the only way that we're really going to be able to get this point across, I feel, and stop the spread of misinformation, such as COVID-19 being a hoax, which is the most recent example of what I've seen on how it has really, really been affecting media in a negative way. Thank you.